For years, I never told anybody what I'm about to tell you. And I just told a few friends, I don't know, 6 months ago. Closest friends I told this to. But there's a stigma in the audio community about needing to hear perfectly. And if there's anything wrong with your hearing in any way, you're somehow tarnished. I did a video on this a long time ago that I'll throw a link up for, where a panel of experts for hearing were discussing things along with the son of a really prominent, George Martin's kid who worked with the Beatles, obviously. And, a lot of people on this panel, I think Chad Blake was on the panel also because he's got issues with his hearing. So it's a very common thing. I've heard Rick Beato talk about it also. As people who spend their life around loud music, as happens with us, we often damage our hearing. Like, we're the ones that damage it. And then when you become a mixer or a mastering engineer or a producer, you try to pretend like you have nothing wrong with your ears. This is what happened to me. When I was building my recording studio, approximately 2019, somewhere around there, I basically, if you've seen my tour video of the studio, I have, and I'm talking about when I was building this one, around 2019, this place has cinder block walls. All right. It has some sheetrock between the rooms, but surrounding, the entire place, there's these cinder block walls. Now, I have panels hung up all throughout these walls, acoustic panels, 4-inch thick, Owens Corning 703 kind of panels, wrapped in Guilford of Maine fabric, framed out. We built all those panels ourselves. So it wasn't like I bought these, I built them myself. And when they were being built, the question of how to hang them came into play. And it was determined that we were going to use these ram set, which is like basically like a 22 caliber round that gets fired into the cinder block in order to hang this stuff in a way that won't fall down over time. Now, if anybody's ever been around a firearm before, you will know that that's loud, especially in an enclosed place. An enclosed room with a lot of reflections, it's loud. Outside, it's not that terrible. But still, hearing protection always, whenever you're around anything like that. So the way that these things were hung, they basically shoot this ram set thing into the wall, and that allowed them to basically mount these things to it. Now, it's on there with kind of like an L bracket behind it, but I don't want to go into too much detail about it. I'll try to pop up a picture of what it looks like. It's kind of hard to get to the back of some of these, but I'll see if I could get one and get just a shot of it to pop up so you can see what I'm talking about. But now, these things, like I said, loud. So it was established whenever anybody was hanging these things, because I hired some people to help me with the build, because I told you I'm not the most mechanical person there is. And as part of that, they were also building these traps and hanging them up. Now, when the hanging of the traps came into play, it was a discussed thing. Everyone was going to say, "Shot," before they fired that thing so that everyone could go like this that was in the room. And I'm constantly a part of all this stuff happening in the room. I'm helping build the traps. I was cutting the Owens Corning 703 panels, the 4-inch thick ones, and I was cutting it with no mask on, like an idiot in the beginning of it. And I was coughing for weeks and weeks and weeks after. And I talked about that, how those particles, get in your lungs, and it's a disaster. But I was cutting these corner traps to fill all the corners up of all the rooms. So I'm doing that. I'm stapling the fabric to the stuff. Literally, I had help, but I'm part of it. So I'm always around. I'm walking around, making sure everything's good. I'm in the room while stuff's happening. So it was decided the first time one of those things was fired, the first time it was fired was actually to get some of the framing done into the, cement slab. To get some of the framing into the slab, they fired one of those. And that was the first time I heard that, and I was like, wow, is that loud? And it hurt me then. So, but at the time, I don't recall any permanent damage or anything from that. I wasn't directly near it. when that happened. And after that, it was decided anytime anybody fires one of these things down here, you got to yell shot so that we all can go like this. And then the thing would happen, because it was a little crazy in terms of how loud it was. Now, I, after that first time, was aware that, like, damn, that hurt my ear a bit, but I didn't notice any permanent damage. And I wound up then wearing ear protection every time I was down there doing anything. I should have done it from the beginning, but I was dumb. And contractors are not always the safest people when it comes to safety, you know, in terms of safety goggles and ear protection. Like, they're not the ones that are going to tell you. It's going to be up to you to make sure you wear your own ear protection if you're a guy around the stuff happening. So I basically made it a point to wear these things. Now, one time, which I will never forget because it haunts me every day, I walked down from, you know, I went upstairs to grab a drink or go to the bathroom or take a call or something. I came back downstairs, and the second I walk in to the room, I had my ear protection with me, but it wasn't on my head yet. Dumb. Again, I'm blaming only me on this, but still dumb. As soon as I walk into the room, there's a guy to my left with the RAM set, and no shot was called out. There's a guy to my right on a ladder dealing with the lights. As soon as I walk in the room, the shot goes off because he shoots it into the wall to hang this panel. And I am standing probably no more than a foot from where this thing was fired. And the ricochet of sound that hit off the wall came back into my eardrum and gave me ringing to the point where I could not hear anything but ringing in that ear for the rest of that night. And then years and years later, the ringing still exists. It's now 2025, almost in a week or two, right? It's 2025 pretty much, right? In a week. So 1 week, 2025, all these years later, I still hear ringing in that ear. But this is the saving grace. Let me tell you what's up. It's not always. It's sometimes. And it's gotten to the point where it's gotten better over the years. When it happened, I thought it was never going to go away. And especially a year later, it was still there. And I'm like, this is never going to go away. What I found out was that over time, you know, and I saw specialists. I want to let you guys know. I saw specialists, like 2 guys, different ones. One of them who said, there's nothing we could do. We don't understand it. And there's really, like, there's no way to make this any better at all. You know, nobody really gets it. Some people, in other words, there's a lot of information out there on it, more all the time probably. But it's one of these weird things that there's people who totally have no ear at all and still hear ringing. Like, war, people who have been injured in war have that situation where they got nothing, but they still hear the ringing. It's some connection to the brain that's not fully understood, is my understanding of it. Now, if I'm wrong, feel free to throw it in the comments. There must be some people who know about more of this than me. But my point is this. You could be like me, and something's wrong with your whatever. Maybe you wish you were a little bit better singer and you can't quite hit the notes. Maybe like me, you just wish you could have a day where you don't hear ringing all the time. Maybe that's the case. I'm here to tell you, it gets better. The thing that got better for me was actually not thinking about it. In other words, you're sad that it happens. You go through a depression where this thing ruined your life. Why me? Why somebody who's devoted their life to music, tried to be mixing stuff forever, recording songs his whole life, a guitarist since he was like 12 years old? Like, why someone like me? Why is this happening with me? You know, like, why did I get unlucky enough to get this thing a freaking shot goes off next to my ear and makes me somebody who's got to have ringing always, constantly, all the time? Why? You know, you get depressed, as everyone would. You'd be sad. But the thing that I would tell my dad about, he said, you get over it. You know, he's long since passed, but the point is, at the time, he was like, "You'll get over it. You'll get over it. Don't worry, it'll go away." That was his only response. Honestly, he was right. It did go away. It it's still there if I think about it, but I don't. And the reason I don't is because you gotta at some point realize that your life is the way it is, and things that happen to you, that's just your life, and there's no point to try to cry about it. There's no point to try to make yourself wish things could be different. You are wasting time, and you are wasting whatever you have been given that is a gift. Every second you do that, and you wallow in what you don't have or what you wish was different. This happens a lot when people compare themselves to other people. They wish they were somewhere else. They wish they did something else so that they could get somewhere else. All the wishing is worthless. What's not worthless is actually taking the time to do today what will make you get closer to wherever you want to be tomorrow. And that starts by realizing whatever happened to you happened, and you can move past it. You will get used to it. You will get over it. The human body is incredibly resilient, incredibly resilient. That's why if I am in a place with like a loud concert, I always bring earplugs with me. If I go to a bar to see bands play, like friends of mine or anything, I bring earplugs with me all the time. It's just part of me now. I just do it as habit because I need to. Because if I'm in a loud place, that's when I'll leave and the freaking ear will start ringing louder than it's typically happening, because it's always there. Like if I think about it, I hear it right now, but I try not to. I try to just avoid it. And it's one of these things that gets less and less the more you don't think about it, the more you just live, it goes away. You know, so what I'm saying is, if I'm I know what makes it worse. What makes it worse is if I go into a club, you know, a friend of mine's birthday, I'm in a club, you know, in Manhattan, some places jamming loud music. As soon as I leave there, if I wasn't wearing earplugs, freaking ringing in my ears. So maybe the first time that happened, I didn't wear them because I either forgot or didn't want to look stupid, or like didn't want to look like somebody's got a problem. So I'm wearing earplugs like an old dude. Or if you got to get rid of these thoughts about what other people think, make yourself okay. So I'm in that situation every day since that first time at that club. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. My ear was ringing for like a week after that one experience for my friend's birthday. So I was like, never again. I always bring earplugs with me. I always wear them, and I don't care what anybody says. And a lot of times what I wind up doing is putting them in and then pushing the left one in really hard because that's the side that got messed up, and then putting the right one in kind of just like in a little bit, but not, because this one I want to protect so that I'm not, you know, one day also damaged in the right ear. But at the same time, I you know, it's like when I want to hear somebody talking, I pull this out and I could hear them, but I don't want to pull the left out. I keep the left one jammed in there, and I actually have two earplugs that are like the kind you get custom molded when you play in bands all the time, you know, so that they filter the sound. So you hear like kind of just a lower version of everything, but it doesn't remove all the bass or make it where you're totally plugging it up. It's a filtered earplug. I have that in my right ear, but the left one has just a solid plug that lets nothing through. Because what I found is that works better for the ringing. When I had the thing with the filter on both sides, I still would have ringing sometimes. So I was just like, you know, I'm not even gonna do that. I'm just gonna jam this thing in the left ear, and the right ear gets the filter. Now, I played in a band for like 3 years, out with loud amps all around us. Like, you know, it was this cover band out here. And I did that once after the hearing protection. Prior to that, I played out all the time, and I barely wore earplugs. I don't think I wore them more than 3 times. I probably played something like 300 shows. I don't know, something like that with my band, you know, getting Real Be-Easy's original band, right? But then, years later, like with this cover band, I wore these earplugs constantly. And I wound up doing a thing where instead of having a monitor blasting at me, because I felt like that was kind of inefficient, I went like just so loud in order to hear anything, I wound up wearing headphones with my monitoring situation playing into the headphones. So, at first, some of my band guys were like, man, why are you wearing earplugs under your headphones? That doesn't make any sense. Once I explained this story to them, they got it. They understood. That's why I do that. That's why I would wear these earplugs underneath, because I want to lower the sound so that no matter what happens with the monitoring situation, if something feeds back like crazy or anything happens, I don't damage my ear even more. So I would plug up the ears and then I'd wear headphone protection on top of it. Like, these big giant headphone things that were monitors, but I could control the volume of those. And that would allow me to sort of get the job done because I just wanted to play out. And I wasn't going to accept that the ringing in my ear prevents me from doing that. What will you accept? Once you have something happen to you, it becomes, now I got to do this to get around this problem, but I'm going to do it. Or you say, poor me. I had this thing happen and now I can't do what I want to do. Poor me. There's nothing good that comes from poor me. Nothing good. Only depression, misery, and a life of I wish I coulda, I wish this didn't happen, I wish I woulda. The other way, you just deal with it. You look a little ridiculous, maybe, wearing earplugs and then headphones on top of it, like me, but I still do it because I wanted to play in the band and play out, and I wanted to be playing again in front of people. So I did what I had to do, regardless of this going on. And the fact that I mix music all the time and I got ringing in my ear makes it where I can't mix very loud for long periods of time. So I learned how to mix quietly. I learned it because it was less painful and damaging on my ears. And I also found it actually makes me a better mixer, because when everything's quiet, I never have a problem with my ear. It never rings. But when things are loud for a long time, the ringing starts. And then once it starts, it's really hard to stop it. It just doesn't go away. Like I need to take, I need to stop for the night. So in order to prolong my ability to work for 8 to 10 hours a day on music, I must work at a low level. But that does prevent you from not being in other words, if I was in a control room and everyone's blasting music to track and I was the engineer sitting there hitting play or stop and record on a thing while somebody gets a guitar track down and they need the click blasting at them and they want the music louder and the speakers and it's those things wouldn't work for me unless I would wear earplugs. So that's if in those situations I plug up. But and I don't care what anybody says, or I don't feel the need to explain myself to people. I'm telling you guys this because I think it might be helpful. But most of the time, I don't feel the need to explain what's going on with me to anybody. So, for years in that band, I never even told anyone. And I think the part of the reason why I didn't tell anyone is because I didn't want them to think that I can't hear. I didn't want them to think that my ability to mix or something was going to be compromised, to play guitar or mix or anything was going to be compromised. And I'm here to tell you, everyone, whether they talk about it or not, has something going on with their ears if they've played in a live band long enough or if they've just been around music long enough. Somebody's got something going on and they don't want to talk about it, but it's probably happening. It's the rare few people in the world that don't. Everyone else does. So don't think you can't mix because you got a problem with your ear. Don't think you can't play in a band because you have a problem with your ear. Don't think any of these things. You can. You just may have to do some stuff to work around your issues. That's a big reason why I don't love going to see live music, because it's not so comfortable to wear these earplugs constantly while I'm watching things loud. I mean, while I'm going to see a live, it's not the most comfortable thing. But when I want to see a show, I do it. You know what I'm saying? When I want to play in a band, I do it because we do what we got to do for what we want to do. You understand what I'm saying? I don't damage it more. That's something I definitely don't do. Protect your hearing. Everyone who's younger listening to this, who might not have any issues yet, or maybe you just started in music, you got to realize how serious this is. Once something happens with that, there's no going back. The one thing I got from the specialist that was helpful was if this problem happened recently, really recently, like yesterday, a day ago, 2 days ago, if it's really recent, and you go to a doctor, he may give you steroids pills to take for your ear to regenerate and regrow things that have happened, but that could only work if it's really recently. So it was too long for me for that to do anything, because by the time I got to the specialist, it was like months later, 6 months later or something. But there's some information out there, because that's why he prescribed it. He prescribed me this, just a script for these like steroid things where you would take like 4 and then 3 and then 2, and that like it would basically wean yourself off of it, but like take a lot at first. And that was supposed to help, somebody at some time do something with it, regenerating the ear stuff. But all I know is, if you just had a problem recently, that could be an option for you. So go see a doctor who will tell you how to do whatever to maybe help. But for a lot of us, I can't wait till one day they come up with some cure for this. That would be amazing. I know there's all sorts of weird stuff that exists now, but nothing is mainstream enough that I would bother with it now, especially because I've gotten over it. But while I was depressed in that initial era of, man, I can't believe this happened, now I can never blah, 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 whatever. No, that's not true. That's actually really not true, because you do get over it. And I mix music every day, and I play music every day. I'm listening, I'm playing through a guitar amp. All I do is make sure I plug up if I'm jamming with friends. If I'm mixing for long hours, I mix low. So I work around the issue. That's what I do. And this also may be part of the reason I hate mixing in headphones, because there's something about the headphones and how direct and close everything is to my ears that makes it harder to work that way without the ringing kicking up. Whereas if I'm working on speakers at a low volume, it never kicks up. Like, I never feel that ring happen. So that may be part of why I hate it, but I am not an advocate for mixing in headphones. It's just, I try. I have 5 different sets of headphones that I've messed with to try to find one that could work or this and that. But ultimately, it comes down to this like physical thing that I just don't like very much. Whereas speakers is so much easier to do for me. It's just easy compared to this. When as soon as I cover both ears, it's strange. It's weird. And like right now, talking about the ringing, I freaking hear it. Because I'm talking about it. So a big step, a big tip, a big thing you could do is do stuff that will progress you forward and stop thinking about your problems, whatever they are, whatever it is. Maybe you wish your voice could do something you could do when you were 10 years younger and it can't do it anymore. Work around it. You can still do everything you want to do. You just got to do it a little differently than you used to do. Maybe it's something about your physical ability. You used to have no pain in your wrist. Now you got pains. You got arthritis setting in. You got something. Maybe that's your issue. You can still be great. All you have to do is stop thinking about how you're not who you used to be. Forget that. Maybe you're a new guy who just doesn't have all the ability that some of the people he looks up to or watches has. You can still offer something through who you are, if you stop living in the wish I woulda, coulda, and move to what can I do now, today, that will make me better tomorrow. I hope this meant something to you guys. If it did, leave something in the comments. I really appreciate it. It helps the video and the channel a lot. Hit the subscribe button. I appreciate that also. Like it if you want to. Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. I'd love to hear your stories. Keep in mind, you guys got this. Take it easy.